So how I'm saying what's happening right now is we're thawing. We're all thawing out. Like, what the heck just happened? And now we're like, is it safe now? Is it safe? And then, like you said, the people who are still watching the news are like, it's not safe now. It's not safe now. It's not safe now. And then people like us who are like, this is a sick game. Like, this has got to stop. Like, we need to do something about this.
Welcome to the New Age Human Podcast. I'm your host, John Estacio, and well, it's 2023, and not too long ago, we experienced a major global lockdown event. So now what? If you have been feeling added stress lately, this episode is for you. So today we welcome back to the show Dr. Ursula Lentine, and if you haven't heard her in the past, well, I'll bring you up to speed. She is a doctorate of consciousness studies, subconscious specialist, and certified pranic healing instructor and healer. So stick around for the whole episode because we do mention understanding post-lockdown trauma, what to do when you're stuck in that, and tools of recovery and prevention. So before we begin, I want to give you a reminder that you can always join our Telegram channel where we discuss topics mentioned in the show and, more importantly, sharing what topics are most interesting to you. And if you want sneak peeks of future episodes, head over to newagehuman.com and join the newsletter. I appreciate you and thank you for joining us today. Let's go. All right. So we wanted to talk about how to wake up from... No. What we wanted to talk about is we went through a post-apocalyptic like situation where we're all locked down, the world shut down, and I feel like, you know, from our conversation before, people are stressed out and they still think they're locked down, right?
There's a lot going on. So you said post, and I'm like, it's post, right?
Yeah.
Because we're posting after the post. Like, we're like, oh, we went through a global crisis, John, and no one's really saying that anymore. Like, they're like, oh, things are better. You don't have to wear a mask anymore. And we're like, excuse me, what just happened?
A lot of crazy stuff happened. People got yelled at. You couldn't go places. You had to do certain things that you might not want to do. And
People
it's
died.
like...
People we love died. That didn't have to. And then all of a sudden, like, okay, so, you know, following statistics, right, and following reality and looking for evidence and knowing something's off, and then going, wait a minute. So the stuff that you and I studied before all of this, and we're like, oh my God, it's coming, right?
Yeah.
And then our relatives who are like, you know, please don't bring any of that up at Thanksgiving, okay? You know what I mean? And we're like, okay, you don't understand. And then so here we are like, la, and they're like, do you know what happened? I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, it's also you have different sides of the fence reacting differently, and then you have different types of people reacting differently. Where yeah, it's like you have that type of person where they tend to just put it deep down inside and pretend like nothing happened, and we just want to go back to normal. There's nothing normal about what's going on even now, and then it's almost like more people woke up to things that need to change, and
Right.
and it was a period of self-reflection on an individual level and on a global level, and we're seeing the effects of that now. So I feel like more people are awake to like, okay, so now what? Because I would like it to be different, or I would like to move on, but it's almost... I also feel like some of us are still stuck in
Very
that.
much. Very much.
I still see people driving around with a mask on, and I know that's not good for your health. I know that
No, it's not. And if there's no one in the back seat and they're not an Uber driver, look, the funniest thing, I was on a long ride, and you know, you're just kind of like in the zone when you're along. And I looked over, and there was a man, and he had his mask on his chin, and he was smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
It's not working.
Yeah, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, something's not right in that picture over there. And then I tried to get a picture, but traffic wasn't working that way. I was laughing so hard. But because I do trauma work, right? So I understand the patterns of trauma, and the way we're behaving is after a trauma, and the way people were behaving during the trauma, the pandemic, is that way. So say there was a car accident, now your body's injured. That's a thing you can point to. You can have a date, you can have a corner that it happened on, and all of that stuff. But this one was a long, stretched out one, and everybody was in it at the same time. And a piece of it, like the frosting on top of it, was confusion. So everybody was in a state of confusion. And if you want to disarm somebody, confuse them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, because they don't know what to do next. And
So
wouldn't
now
you
you
say,
have, yeah,
sorry,
now
go
you
ahead.
have them stuck, right? So if you have power and you have clarity and you're the one who confused them, guess who's winning that game?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I think that's a fighting move too, where you clap their ears, and that's where that's what people use to just stabilize their center of gravity, and you just go pop, and then they're just lost. And it's one of those, I remember that being a fighting move, and I think it's pretty much very similar, but now it's like cognitive instead
Right,
of physical.
right. And you're not the only one, right? So if you can say, I was in the car accident, this thing happened to me, everybody else doesn't understand. There's something to be different about. But here we were all in the same soup. It's like the saying, it's not true, but about the frog, how do you cook a frog, and it's on a low temp, right? So the water's just getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and then the frog's like, oh, but that's not how they do it, really, if you're going to kill a frog. But it's the idea, right? So I think we were all in that boiling water, that simmering water together. And we're like, oh, it's a little hot in here, isn't it? Yeah, like, don't you want to get out? Yeah, where's the ladder? I don't know. We're all so we're just like, okay, well, we'll just hang out together and everything will be fine. But we didn't know how it happened. We didn't know who was in charge. The information kept getting confusing. People were losing their jobs. People were left to stay at home. So it was like we were all prisoners, but we got to stay home and drink our coffee and play on the internet. Like
Yeah.
we've been systematically for decades made to be complacent and compliant.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's sped up a lot of the process of allowing us to live that way remotely. And some people use it for the better, where you have these what do you call it, the online, or what do you call it, where somebody, it's at the tip of my tongue, where somebody everything, you work online, so you're remote, and
Remote.
you,
Yeah,
but
remote.
yeah, remote person. But you can travel. I see more people traveling for vacation now that they're
Mhm.
allowed to
Right.
travel, and now they're working. So it's like almost like some good came out of
Oh,
the
lots of
technology
good.
side, but at the same time, um, it's almost like that good is starting to help people forget all the bad. So my question to you is, you specialize in just identifying the trauma and helping people work through that. So you definitely have a different lens, and we got a good feel for that right now in this conversation. But let's go a little bit deeper into that. Let's say somebody might identify as, you know what, I didn't let go of that, or you still like how do we know if you didn't let go when you thought you let go? I think that would be a good question.
Yeah. So in trauma, say the death of a loved one, because a lot of us have experienced that. So say that. So there's this one of the versions is there's this pre thing where there's a sickness and it's developing, the doctors, and oh my goodness, and let's get treatment, and oh, this is threatening, and we have to make the right decision. So there's a lot of stress up there. And then it's the week of. The doctors are like, look, the signs are showing, the body's not going to, it's going down. And then they're sleeping and they're in and out, and their lips change, and all kinds of things are happening. And you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Is it happening? And you're just every breath, and then they actually pass. And then there's this whole series of after. Okay, we have to do the funeral. We have to tell everybody, like, what are we going to do? Like, blah, 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 blah. So there's all this like chaos afterward. And then there's this really long, weird, uncomfortable, horrible time period where we're mourning and we're like, oh my God, my person's gone. How did that happen? Is it real? Like, I'm so sad. We are now globally in that last period where everything's okay, back to normal, everyone. You're like, no, my person's gone. There's no normal. The piece of my heart is missing. There is no normal. How come everyone's walking around like everything's fine? If it is not fine, my person is gone. So just like that scenario, we're going, people who lost their job, right? So a lot of people identify who they are with their position in life. So if that has gone away, then they're like, oh, I'm no more this person who I was really good. I was really good at that thing that I did. Or, finances got cut, or people had to work from home and then they realized, like, I don't really like you anymore. Right. And then they got divorced.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of people got divorced. A lot of people separated. A lot of people couldn't afford to get divorced. So they were like, just stay away from me. Right.
So, yeah.
Someone's living in the basement. Someone's living upstairs. It's just like, what is going on? So lots of changes happen. But during the change, there's too much going on for us to emotionally process and catch up to what's happening. So even though we're like functioning like robots, right? Because we're just running the patterns like the little mice in the maze, we're just running the patterns, but something inside is not correct, not the same. We've gone through lots of losses. We lost a lot of our liberty and our right to choose, right? Our right to be in public without a mask, our right to travel, our right to hug people, right? Our right to go shopping in certain stores. They were like, you're not coming in with that. And we're like, I'm a consumer. You don't want me in here? Okay. Right.
And the kids.
Oh no, don't even get me started. Okay. I would go up to families that are different than my culture and I would speak my broken Spanish and I'd say, no necesario, no respario, non puede per los niños. And they're looking at me like, why is this white woman talking to me? And I'm like, please, please. And they're like, that kind of makes sense, And then they talk and I'd leave. And I was like, oh, I hope. Because everybody's trying to follow the rules, but they're not understanding what I understand. Like, so don't hurt the children, please. They didn't have anything to do with this virus.
And it does seem like as that slowly dissipated, right, the lockdowns, and then you get your freedoms back, it's like hard to even say those words. And now there's just more stuff where I can only imagine what it's like I don't watch the news like that. I have my own personal ways to find out information that's vetted and whatnot. I can only imagine the people that are still trying and just clawing at whatever type of normalcy that they can find and being bombarded by nonstop fear porn, I call it, where it's just, this is happening, what are you going to do? That just happened, what are you going to do? What are your thoughts on this? This person made the decision, this is happening, the economy, blah, blah, blah. And so it's almost like, do you think people are starting to get numb at one point? Like,
it's not starting, right? Say this death scenario. When the crisis is happening, a part of them has to go numb because they have to talk to the doctors. They have to make family decisions. They have to make accommodations. Somebody has to quit their job and come stay because no one can take care of, and all of that. Like the whole thing gets disrupted. So you can't like, oh my God, my mom's. No, there's no time for that. Like, come on. Yeah. So that oh my God part doesn't get to go until the end. After the funeral and all the chaos and the papers and everything like that. That's the real bereavement process. All of this stuff was other, chaos. So numb. So how I'm saying what's happening right now is we're thawing. We're all thawing out. Like, what the heck just happened? Because we had to go numb, and now we're like, Is it safe now? Is it safe? And then, like you said, the people who are still watching the news are like, it's not safe now. It's not safe now. It's not safe now. And then people like us who are like, this is a sick game. Like, this has got to stop. Like, we need to do something about this. But the problem is, like on the other side, when you're finally like getting it all together and like thawing out and your emotions are coming back online, but it's not okay, right? Like whatever's happening is not over. The person's gone or the job is gone or the divorce happened or whatever. And then we're like, oh, because we don't want to thaw out because it's yucky, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want this scenario. I wasn't like super excited before, but like this is worse. But then people who are on their spiritual path, who are on the awakening, who are saying, yeah, I don't want to work in that stupid box and be a corporate person. And my value is based on numbers of selling stuff and the whole program of corporations. They do the training because I'm not in that world, but I'm cross contaminating now because those people are coming to my space. They're saying we need some help here. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Please come. I got some answers for you. So they're the corporation. It's not about the product or the service. It is about the shareholders' profit.
Yeah.
Everything must happen for the shareholders. And I'm like, I thought it was about the product. And they're like, no, it's just all shareholders. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
no wonder. No wonder there's a lot of problems there, right? So the people don't want to go back in the box. They don't want to do that. So this, like you mentioned earlier, this has been a wonderful situation for people to say, that's not what makes me happy. That's not what my life is about. I don't need this thing, and I don't need this, and I don't need that. You know what? I like it more simple. This feels better. Why am I eating all this garbage? Look at me, 20 pounds. I'm just going to eat healthy food. For me, John, I see things historically, right? So I'm looking at the long timeline and then like that for thousands of years, we had no TV and cell phone.
Yeah.
So how did we live? We did like this. We communicated. We sat down and talked to each other. And then we went and we labored with the land and we gathered the food and we sang songs around the fire and we went to bed on time.
Yeah, you went to bed when you were tired, you know?
Yeah, or when the sun went out. You're like, okay, we're done. We put it in today.
Yeah, you couldn't just turn on the lights and extend your day and then mess with your whole rhythm. I know we're getting into like the now what, and I want to continue that. And I know that you had some specific things that you want to share on maybe techniques or perspectives someone can get into.
I want to say some bad news first,
okay? No. Great, yay.
so sorry. It takes, back to the timeline there, it takes 3 generations to forget history. So just like the TV and the phone, before we would hear the family stories ad nauseum, right? Like, oh my God, we're going to hear the Mayflower story again, you know? Or our great-great-great-grandfather was in Spain and this is what happened and we're proud of that, you know, or we come from the line of shame, you know, we're the ones who we hung out with Attila the Hun and, you know, we really have to make up for it now. But we don't have that, right? So we don't know who we are individually as a family, right? We don't know, oh, this is my culture. These are my foods. These are my things. Even when you do like 23andMe or whatever, they tell you what foods are working for you and all of that, right? What kind of diet you thrive in, what your blood and all of that. So when we're understanding like where we come from, we're solid. We're like, this is who I am and this is my people and this is what I stand for. But if no one's really doing that, then you're like, well, I'll just go around with the crowd. And that's all on purpose. That is all on purpose. So if we're all going around along with the crowd and you break a family and the man doesn't have his family anymore, you lost his fight. What's he got to fight for? You don't care. You don't care. But if you have children and a wife, he'll be like, you know, and you're
True.
like, okay, man, just hold on. But if you like, you know, ripped his heart out and his wife cheated on him and his kids don't like him anymore, it's like, just give me a drink. What do you want? Right? You lost his fight. So we're the generation, this X-genning people, you know, after the baby boomers, who know the history. And if we're sitting around going, what's going to happen? We're not doing our service to the 3-4 generations coming in the forward. Because these kids don't know. Our kids, the millenniums, they don't know. So my generation's complaining about the millennials. I'm like, you raised them. You're the one who didn't teach them. You have to go out and go to work and make your own money and like figure it out by yourself. We babied them, and now we're judging them for why can't you get your act together and, you know, make something with your life. And I don't blame them. Then we're like, you don't look happy. This corporate thing doesn't work. The banking system's failing. The education system's failing. The government's full of crap. You want me to participate in what? So they're like, I don't think so. I don't blame them, right? Because I work with youth. And I'm like, I know. But you have to create something. Because we're you know, this is our trajectory right now. So unless we get like an understanding of who we are. So maybe we don't have our history anymore, but really, what do you stand for? Just take everything else away. What do you believe in? What makes your heart sing? What will you fight for? What do you want to stand up for? What's fair? What's right? Those are the things that will create fire inside of us. And then you're like, Johnny, you agree with me? This is what I'm feeling. John's like, oh, yeah, me too. Okay, fine. Then it's small groups. And if we can just kind of throw out the nonsense, right? The hypnosis, the like brainwashing, then a lot of these small groups are going to get back to what we've been doing naturally. Taking care of one each other, fighting for the underdog, you know, speaking up, protecting, watching what's happening here, saying, no, we're not doing that. You know, spending time with our children so they don't have to be afraid to go to school and get killed by another kid. Like, That's so ridiculous. When in any history has children killed children? Never. That's a sign of the sickness of our society. So we have to we have been raised in complacency, like I said. So we're like, oh, someone else will fix it. It's my turn. It's your turn. Us. That's why we're having this podcast.
Yeah.
Starting a conversation of how can I be more responsible about me and my family and my neighborhood and my culture, and how can I stand up and how can I start saying no? So darkness, right? Because I work with darkness and light within each of us. I don't believe in the devil, but I do believe that there is a nefarious underpinning within all of us, and then especially with people who have power, because power corrupts if it's unmonitored, if it's unregulated. Look at the priests, look at the, you know, people who get into positions of power who are not being watched very well. They can go off the deep end and you know, the emperor wears no clothes, right? It's just like, everyone's like, okay, well, he's got all the money, so we'll just follow him.
I feel like that's what's happening right now.
It is. That's why I'm mentioning it, right? So if we wake up and say, I'm not buying into that, then we do, because their greatest fear is we wake up and figure out who they are. Because they're outnumbered. You can throw all the money you want to people who are mad at you. They'll be like, I'm still mad at you. I don't need your money. I want you to step down. So that's what we have to do, because darkness will weaken. Smart darkness, right? If you going back to fighting, if you weaken your opponent before the fight starts, you won.
Yeah, it's true.
That's why those boxers are like, you ain't nothing. I'm going to get you, you know, your mama. You know what I mean? And then the person inside's like, oh. And then they're lights out. You won. So it's that thing that we've been weakened. Our society has been weakened. We've been, lazy. We've been made to be lazy on purpose. They have taken critical thinking out of the school system.
Yeah, and the laziness on a physical level, right? Like my challenge has always been the like you want to do something, but unknowingly you fell into a lot of bad habits, and you don't know that a lot of what you're doing is draining you from
Yes.
attitude to your diet to your environment, a lot of different things. And when you start to wake up to those things, you start to realize like there's been a lot of things that are attacking my ability to serve my purpose or to
Yes.
move forward and excel in life. And there's people that are too busy trying to pay their medical bills, too busy trying to put out fires in their family that got caught up in their challenges of
Yep.
what society has fails for them, right? And and
Yes.
and and their inner circle. So it's there's a lot going on. There's
A
definitely a lot
lot.
going on.
A lot. So what can we choose? We can choose food,
Hmm.
right? Food and Drug Administration, they should not be one category. Like that's like, wait a minute, what does that have to do with that? Unless you look behind the curtain
Two
and you're
separate
like,
things.
oh, put the poison in the food and then give them drugs because they poison themselves. Okay.
Yeah,
You know,
literally.
if I look at the back of a bag and the ingredients are that long and I can't pronounce half of them, that's all garbage. My mom was raised in Germany, so they only had like potatoes and ham and it was like one food, it wasn't like this. So she would look. She came to America and they got married and they had the kids. And then we would all go American grocery shopping and she'd look and she's like, "No, that's garbage. That's garbage. We're not getting garbage. That's garbage." And we're like, "But it tastes so good." Like, no, garbage. But she was right. It is garbage and it does make us sick.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff is illegal in other countries too. A lot of
Yeah.
the food that we can pull off the shelf and eat at ease, and it's affordable because it's, anyways. It in other countries they're like, we don't want that stuff. We know what you're doing. No, just no. And then people are like, when you tell someone that, like, you're eating something that's illegal in another country, but why? I'm gonna let you look into that because I can tell you everything, and you can just immediately deny it. But if I piqued your interest enough, go check it out.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, so it's how we vote, right? That's always been the thing when we talk about society and culture and all that. It's how we vote. So we vote with our dollar. We vote by what kind of garbage are we going to put in our food, in our mouth? What are we consuming on the I get scrolling sometimes. I go to check the calendar and then all of a sudden I'm scrolling and I'm like, no, 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 no. You just got sucked in. This is you are wasting your life. This is not contributing to your life value at all.
Yeah.
Right? And it makes us lazy and it makes us addicted and they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. And so
Those clever
there's a lot of stuff pulling us back. What are I mean, what are some tools of
nature.
recovery and prevention? I
Nature.
got my tools, but I'm curious about your tools.
Nature. Nature, 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 nature,
I
nature.
agree.
We have been living in nature for thousands of years. And all you have to do is sit for 20 minutes, even if you don't want to walk. Our physical body was designed to move. So when we're sitting for hours, like sitting is the new smoking. True. Because if we're not moving, all kinds of things are not happening. And those are pro-health things. So us sitting is anti-health. Going for a walk. Everybody can put their shoes on and go outside and go for a walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And specifically look at nature. When our eyes see the patterns of trees and of plants and things like that, something is happening. They call it forest bathing in Japan and all of that because they work too hard. But just being in nature, there's things that are going on that are recalibrating our frequency. And we will start relaxing and start appreciating. It will help us sleep. And when we're paying attention to what's going on outside, as far as the sun and the moon and those rhythms, and we try to copy nature, That's the thing that we can do, because say we are so ignorant, we have no idea what's going on, but we know we don't feel good. Go outside.
Mm-hmm.
Play
Mm-hmm.
in your yard, go for walks. A walk is the best cure for almost anything. And if you're really upset, go for like a 5-mile walk.
Right? Just go, just leave. I 1000% agree. That is my go-to. I know that there's if you on this on the left brain of myself, the sciencey science side of myself wants to kind of break it down, but when you're around electronics, you're getting an excess amount of positive ions, and they your body gets stressed from that because it's just imbalanced, and nature is full of an abundance of negative ions. And so just think of like the balance of the two. That's why they say go grounding, and like go into the rainforest, go into the rainforest. If you live near a rainforest, that's awesome.
Right.
But go into the woods, try to go barefoot so you can
Yes.
ground yourself, literally physically connect.
Within
And
seconds.
yes,
Just
yes.
barefoot on like healthy earth. So, I was on the phone and knocking that door, and I'm like, who's in my house? There was a young man. He stood way, way back, and he goes, I'm here to help. He was so like, and I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, I'm just asking, your neighborhood if you wanted some treatment for your yards, And I said, no, I don't do chemical. He goes, it's not chemical. It's all natural. I'm like, awesome. I'm on the phone. Put your card in the mailbox. Because he was like, I think every house was like, yeah, we spray our lawn with all the pesticides and we're killing the planet, And he's like, I have something and it's all natural,
Which is great, And
Yes.
he's doing his thing.
He's trying,
He's
right?
fighting a good fight.
Trying. That's right.
Replacing something bad with something good, and hopefully people wake up to that. And I think just more and more people are just becoming more aware. You're in that questioning everything mode. I think a lot of people are in that question everything mode because it just
And the brain, John, the brain has all the questions.
Mm-hmm.
The heart is where the answers are.
Mm-hmm.
So when we can simplify and say, okay, right, you could go crazy listening to your brain, like how people listen to the news and their brain at the same time. Like I'm like, no wonder we have an alcohol problem in the country and drugs. But if we could just sit and listen to our heart and say, heart, what do you say? What do you want for me? That would be a great question, because it'll take out all of that but if and when answers. And it'll just say, call your mom, start journaling, like go clean your closets, like simplify.
Yeah. And then that sounds like a meditation, right? Where you sit in silence and then you focus on your heart, or if you're not used to doing that, just sit in silence and just pay attention to the nothingness that starts to come up from it. And I've done that a couple of times, and that's one of my go-to. First is let's go hiking. I'm actually going hiking today to help family overcome stress, literally. So I'm doing it. And they love the idea, and we don't care that it rained yesterday. We're gonna walk that muddy path. Like
that's right.
Let's just go. It's part of nature. When when things are wet, it just brings a different aroma too.
Yes.
Okay. Random question: do you like the smell of wet concrete? For some reason, I like the smell of wet concrete.
I don't know what wet concrete smells like.
It's like after it rained, it's like that foggy mist of like thick air, and you just smell the moisture of like your neighborhood. So I think it's a mixture of like the grass, a mixture of concrete, but maybe it's ozone. Maybe I'm talking about the smell of ozone.
Yeah, I love nature, right? So I'm out there in the rain. I don't care. It's just you go home and you take a shower, right?
Yeah.
I love the rain because the earth opens up, right? So in the morning, if you get up really early, the earth is still open. That's why I go and pull all my weeds out in the morning, because they're not awake yet. Like in the day, you try to pull the weeds, and the weeds are like, no, I'm not going. And you're like, you snap them, and all the roots are like, You think you got, no, we're just going to double up on you, right? So if you're one with nature, you go out when the soil is open and everyone's like, oh, it's good morning. And you're like, bloop, 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 bloop. So that's what Earth does when it's raining. Everything is open and receptive, right, to that. And then there's a chlorophyll, especially in the springtime. The leaves actually change color because they're in such a receptive mode of that fresh rain. So there's a lot of aliveness, and it is the ions after the rain or during that really moist time where everything is just, and then every little drop is reflecting. So it looks like diamonds are coating, the grass or the whatever. It's just, I love, right, a fresh rain or just after the rain. Everything is really like fresh.
That reminds me of the movie The Matrix, where the Oracle says, and then you'll feel right as rain. And I feel like you filled in that question I've had, that I forgot that I had a question about it. I'm like, I've never heard anybody ever say feeling right as rain. I'm like, that's probably a Gen Z or boomer quote, because
Mm-hmm.
like these phrases that are tied to nature are
Mm-hmm.
slowly going away, and
Mm-hmm.
now they're becoming very meta, right?
You know what? I wonder if that was earlier after the drought
Hmm.
in the what was that, 20s, late 20s. We had a horrible drought and like famine pursued
Hmm.
because of there's no, so I could see somebody in that time period, when it rained, they'll be like, everything's right now. It's raining.
Hmm. Yeah. And yeah, so yeah, I'm trying to not be so meta, right? And
Yeah.
it's a language that's coming about. So I think we went over a lot of really great just situations and realizations of what's going on. If we were to summarize some things that you could do, maybe into something specific someone can do right now, like it's the realization where we have agreement, like we are in that post-traumatic stress mode of the lockdowns, and we gave some answers to go out into nature, to sit in silence. Do you have some type of like mantra that you do, something that someone can like pull from this and apply it like immediately?
Yes. So just to repeat what you said, going over the show really is to be aware, right? Because think of the death thing, and then now you're in this very uncomfortable time period. So if people don't know that they're recovering from a great loss, from a global epidemic, from something, and they're like, something's not right with me. Something's not right with me. Okay, something's not right with everybody, right? And just to understand, this is the post, apocalyptic deal here, and this is us thawing out. So once we can be like, oh, this is where I'm at, right? Because it feels like you're lost, basically. So instead of saying I feel like I'm lost, I mean you are lost, but now I know why I'm lost, and I'm in some kind of bereavement process. Study Kubler-Ross. There's 5 different parts of the bereavement of, grief and loss. And to understand, like, oh, you're feeling angry. Yeah, you should be angry. It's a part of your process. Don't pretend you're not angry. Go ahead and be angry. So study those 5 things and understand that you're struggling to like get new bearings about that. So understanding who you are and why you are is very important. And trying to get one with nature, right? Go for walks minimum, spend time out in nature, study nature, look at pictures of nature, like anything nature, do that. Be responsible, vote for yourself with what you consume, what you're eating, what you're listening to, people who are around you. If people are afraid and negative and all of that, just take them out. Just spend less and less and less time with them and listen to, what's trying to be told to you from your heart, not all the chitter chatter, but like, and then I would say if one mantra is to be kind.
Interesting.
Be kind to ourselves, to be kind to our fellow, because we're all going through this bereavement, and that's the behavior. Everybody grieves differently, right? So you can be like, oh, why is that guy acting like a jerk? Because he's not okay.
Yeah.
He's not okay right now. So be kind to him. Be kind to yourself. Take more naps. Just relax. Don't go feel like you have to do everything all the time. Better sleep, more water, like the whole normal things that we're supposed to be doing that we don't do because we're too busy distracting with ridiculousness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well put. Well put. I hope everybody listening took advantage of our conversation and what Dr. Ursula Lentine really went over with her experience with helping people with trauma. And you really simplified it, right? You really broke it down, and it's very eye opening to think about how we're not alone in this world of people having stress, and we all have that now in common. We all have something in common, like globally. So it's the irony of some like a lockdown separating you from everybody, and now everybody has that one thing in common. There's people that I haven't spoken to in high school, right, and in college, but now that you're in the world and you see that person, you might have spoken to them like once, but because you went to the same college or whatnot, you have commonality. And I feel like now everybody has something to say about the same, like we're all part of that group. So it's
Yeah.
an interesting phase that we're in. So lots of good content. I do appreciate you coming on and sharing your words of wisdom on how we deal with this. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad we're on the same page. It's easy to talk to you,
Right?
right? Because they're like, yeah, 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 yeah. But we're just trying to say things that are like the common denominator of all of us.
All right. So thank you again, Ursula, for coming on to the show. What are you working on right now? If anybody's looking to connect with you, they like what you said, they vibe with what you said, how can they reach you? What you working on?
There's 3 invitations that I have. One is to come to the Twin Hearts meditation every Tuesday. It's online, 7 o'clock Eastern time. It's super easy. Bless the planet with loving kindness, get a lot of benefits. The second one is one-on-one sessions. So I do subconscious work, clearing up all of our past traumas and everything. The lineage also, because we inherit stuff from our family lineage, mother's side, father's side. Our soul is evolving. We have past life stuff that we're still running. So you can clean any of those things up. So if you, anybody who's struggling with like, I'm stuck, I don't understand, why do I behave this way? I know better. All of that I can clear up. And for people who are really have done a lot of their personal work, I have a group class, and this one's mind blowing because we take the individual session formula, if you will. It's called Internal Family Systems, and we do it in group with evolved people, and the healing and the depth of what happens in that time is incredible. So there's like, beginner, intermediate, advanced.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like how you're surrounded by evolved people, and people are going to be like, what does that mean? But like you've gone over, you
You've
found your
cleared a
solutions, right?
lot, right? You've cleared a lot. You have a lot of self energy. You know how to stop the chatter in your head. If something happens, you can self regulate right away. And then you have a really grounded sense of clarity about who you are and how you move in the world and how you respond to life events. So if you're at that place where you're like, I'm solid, but there's still room for me to grow, and I can't find my next teacher, and so on. So I'm leading the group. I'm also breaking it down, right? I'm simplifying the way how I do, and then we just go in, guns blazing, of course, but it's all love bombs, right? But we go in and do the work.
Awesome. All right. And did you say the website? Where can we? How can we find you?
All social media is my first and last name.com, at Gmail,
Okay, perfect. And that's going to be in the
social
show notes
media.
too. So if like spelling is an issue, don't worry about it. It's in there. Just kind of scroll down after this. You're good. As a listener.
Yeah.
um,
Ursula Lentine. Let me spell it out. URSULALENTINE.
Perfect. I love your energy. I love vibing with you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. I really believe and appreciate what you're doing in the world, John.